I bought the cheapest Porsche 996 Turbo that I could find, and still to this day I haven't found one cheaper. But now I'm going to install the most expensive suspension components on it all around. Yeah, it's going to be like a quarter of the price of the car in suspension. But it'll be worth it. Now that the coilovers are on and the car is sitting and riding so good, I can't get over how well those KW coilovers ride. It's amazing. Now it has the proper stance, not too low, not too high, just right. I think the ride height is darn near perfect. Now it's time to move on to a whole bunch of suspension goodies from Redline. And I mean a whole bunch. Got Redline's GT3 adjustable control arms for the front and the rear. It's pretty cool that they're all the same part. Kudos to Porsche. I've got a front bump steer kit and a rear bump steer kit and all the associated bits with that, plus the electronics bracket kit, which I'll get into a little bit later. We've got GT3 style control arms, front and rear. We've got all the spacers for it. We've got a front bump steer kit, a whole bunch of spacers, nuts. My goodness, there's a lot of stuff here, so a lot of work that needs to be completed. The only thing to do is get started. Now what is very nice is I didn't make the car too low. I still fit the quick jacks underneath without issue. Whoa, Buster. Holy spit. The f are you doing? That was wild. Time to get to work. Oh, Donald.
Yeah, what's up?
I'm guessing that gear oil you smelled was from me.
What was it?
And it's all under here.
Oh,
I wonder why. The first thing I wanted to install were the front lower control arms. And before that, I gotta get the old ones off, which is thankfully pretty easy. This really isn't even in bad shape. As I went on in this suspension overhaul, I actually noticed that most of the suspension components were in good shape, which surprised me based on the shape of the rest of the car. Front passenger side is done. That went pretty smoothly, just like the coilovers. Now what I did find is, and I'm glad I decided to do this today, I drove this once since installing the coilovers. Well, I didn't get my axles seated in the whole way, and a whole bunch of the fluid came out. Yeah, so it's all over the underside of the car, the skid plate. And my buddy Donald smelled it when we got to the gym. He's like, I smell gear oil. And I was like, I don't know why that would be. Well, I get back to the house, put it up. Sure enough, yeah, a bunch of oil leaked out. Overall, my E36 is a little worse for wear and needs an entire paint job all around. But for now, thanks to touchupdirect.com, today's video sponsor, I'm going to at least fix up the front bumper a little bit, which has a good many chips and chunks of paint missing. Now this kit from Touch Up Direct comes with everything that I need for my car. It comes with the primer, the Hellrot Red code 314 base coat, and it comes with clear coat as well. It also comes with white pads, polishing compound, sandpaper, and gloves. So literally everything you need to get those nasty scratches fixed up on your paint. The first step is to use the wax and grease remover on this little alcohol-like pad. Go over all the spots that you're gonna touch up, do that, and then let it dry. Now once that's dry, I'm gonna hit it with the primer, fill in those spots, and then let the primer dry. Now if the primer's dry, I'm gonna use the number 314 base coat, and then I will let that fully dry. And now that the base coat is dry, I can apply the clear coat. That's gonna make sure that this paint sticks on there. Now that clear coat is dry, you can see the difference here. It filled in those spots where the paint was missing. That's really the worst spot on this car, but if you have any dents or scratches that you got in a parking lot, something like that, touchupdirect.com has all the products you need to get it fixed up without having a whole new respray. And if you guys would like to get your own, you can use the discount code I have right here. Make sure to go to touchupdirect.com BALLER.com to get that perfect match for your vehicle. That's all gear oil. So I'm very glad I caught this now. My goodness, I'm dirty. The good news is I wanted to flush out the diff fluid anyway, because that's the only fluid I haven't done in the car yet, other than cooling. So, checks another thing off the maintenance list. So, I'm gonna go get some fluid, get that changed. In the meantime, I'm gonna move over to the driver's side of the front, get that done, and we'll move on to the rear. Now the front's not gonna be completely done because I'm still waiting on the front bump steer kit from Redline. That was back ordered, but that should be here very shortly. Then I'll get that installed, and then I gotta take it for alignment because this thing's gonna be way out of whack. Installing the lower control arms really isn't too bad, and luckily I didn't have any seized or rusted bolts, which I was worried about with this car's age and mileage and condition when I got it, so it all went pretty smoothly. Driver's side front was done as well. That went smoothly. It's kind of crazy that the arms actually aren't in bad shape. The ball joints feel decently solid. The bushings in the middle aren't all completely shot. The bushings on the end aren't shot, so I don't know if these were replaced at some point. But like I said before, the car drove really well. There's nothing loose in the suspension, but this is going to be a great upgrade all around. Moving on to the rear, it's definitely a little bit more of a hassle than the front. There's more stuff jammed in there, there's more arms, it's just a little more complicated, which you wouldn't think so because there's no steering back here. Yeah! Got him! Everything's out, but that is supposed to remain in the hub, so I gotta figure out how to get that off of there without messing it up. That actually wasn't too bad. Nice. What's cool about this rear bump steer kit is that it fixes bump steer and it gives you more adjustment other than just the stock eccentric adjuster bolt. Yeah, I'm getting there on the rear. It's been a little bit of a fight because I have an extra arm to replace on each side for the Redline rear toe correction kit. Kind of like the front, yeah, this was in fine shape. I didn't see anything abnormal. The only reason the boot is torn on the ball joint is because I had to use a pickle fork to get that inner race, that's what you want to call it, off of this to put it back in the hub. But I gotta finish installing all the new parts. Shouldn't take too much longer. Getting everything aligned back here isn't exactly easy. You see I actually had to drop the sway bar as well to get some bolts out. It's not exactly a fun time, but it's not the worst. It's just a matter of removing bolts, putting bolts back in. Passenger side is all completely done. Just got to move on to the driver's side rear and we'll be done with suspension, at least for now. I may get some new thrust arms eventually and maybe some rear sway bar end links because the front are new. I think I'm replacing all the stuff that is adjustable. So if I get it aligned and then I replace these other arms later, it shouldn't affect my alignment because this stuff's not like way out of whack or anything. It was right about here that I got really tired of laying on my back getting up and down, getting tools, hitting stuff with a hammer, wrenching upside down. It's quite annoying. I really got to get a bigger garage with higher ceilings and a full 2-post lift. Disassembled, it went as expected, and like I said, again, that inner race stuck, so I gotta bang that off. But control arm, stock control arm is fine, not in bad shape, nothing totally abnormal here. Just gotta get this race piece off and then get the rear all back together. Almost done. Last corner, thankfully. Laying on your back, just, I mean, it kind of sucks. I really wish I had a lift. Quick jacks are awesome, they really are. This would really suck without quick jacks, but man, I'd love to be able to stand under the car. That's for sure. First one came off really nice with this pickle fork, so I hope this one is the same. This is a little more difficult than the other one. More difficult for sure. As you see, I kept progressing into larger and larger hammers. This thing did not want to move. But when I did finally get it off, you'll see here it actually flew up in the air in a perfect way that I could catch it. Of course, it wasn't on the real camera, it was on the GoPro time-lapse, but either way, kind of cool moment. Almost done. Now, while I was wrapping up the rear, Donald was able to get the axles fully seated in for me. What was weird is the axles, I thought they were fully seated because they were connected. I spun one side and the other side would spin. Everything felt right, but they just weren't quite in there to actually seal the fluid inside. So he got all the old fluid out. There was still a good bit in there and then pumped in some fresh fluid, and that checks that off the maintenance list. So in the end, I'm kind of glad this happened. And then it was time to fully install the rear bump steer correction kit. You have to adjust this arm up and down with washers to make sure it's level with the lower control arm to make sure that you don't, in fact, get bump steer. All right, one more washer. So this took a good bit of trial and error because I wanted to get it as close to perfect as possible. And the way I did it was with an angle finder. I could probably use one more. Might as well make it perfect. 5 washers then. Oh yeah, that'll do. I just have to do the other side. Now, an awesome part of this kit was the Litronics adapter, which you see there on the control arm. Turns out my factory one was actually broken in the front, so now my headlights should function properly. I'm mostly there, but as you guys can see, the rear toe is, sorry, they're mowing the lawn. The rear toe is way out of whack, so I'd like to get it at least decent before I send it off to the lineman shop. That way I don't wreck my tires on the way there. think that's about as good as your boy here can do with no actual alignment equipment. Some of you had asked about this red spray can that I have. I'll leave a link to it from Amazon, but basically I just put in degreaser and then I pump it up with pressure, and it's really, really handy just for degreasing anything. I use it to clean my tools, clean parts on the car, etc. All you do is push the little button and it comes out. It's really, really handy thing to have around the garage, and it's cheap. As far as the parts I have now, I'm complete. I'm gonna put the front wheels on, put it on the ground, and see just how bad the alignment looks. I'm hoping it's decent. Okay, the front bump steer correction kit from Renline showed up, so now it's time to install that. That shouldn't be too difficult. It's basically tie rods, but adjustable with all these washers. Just like the rear bump steer kit, it's essentially the same thing, only even easier. And I'm curious what condition my tie rods are in now. Maybe they're pretty decent like the rest of the car, maybe they're completely shot. We're about to find out. It's time to tear back into the front end. The only thing left is upper control arms for the rear. So like the rest of the suspension on the car, these are actually totally fine. Ball joints are still nice and tight. There's nothing obviously wrong with it. It just looks old and beat up. I'd like to get these so that the approximate same length that they were. That way my alignment's at least somewhat close. That's pretty doggone good right there. I've coated everything in anti-seize on accident. Everything's tightened up. I'm going to do just like the rear. I'm going to use my angle finder and check the lower control arm compared to the tie rod and see what changes I need to make washer wise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 degrees. Alright, we're not matching the 6 degrees, so it's probably like the rear. I'm probably going to end up using 5 washers. It's a pretty significant difference considering I already have 3 in there. That tells you how out of whack the factory is. Few of you guys also mentioned dry ice blasting. That is on the list. I just have to find someone to do it. and I want to get a whole bunch of other stuff done on the car first. Got the angle pretty darn well close, about as close as I can get it. I'm happy with that. Now I just have to do the passenger side. If it's anything like the driver's side, it was super smooth and easy to do. Everything with Redline always fits perfectly. Huge shout out to them, awesome parts. Let me get this wrapped up and we can call the front done. These really aren't in bad shape at all, but I mean, who really wants used control arms? Nobody? There's no real reason for keeping any of these parts, right? I know some of you guys said I should have kept the factory struts and shocks, but I don't know. I don't think they're worth anything. That's where I'm going to wrap it up today. I'm not going to do the upper rear control arms because they haven't come in yet, and I'm not going to make you guys wait a whole nother, week or so for those to come in for me to do that. So in a future video, I'd like to get those installed and then do a nice detailing, pressure washing outside of all these suspension components. Maybe get underneath the car pretty well because it needs it. Also in the next video, after I do all that, I've got to get it aligned and then drive it. Thanks for watching, guys. Part 2 coming up next.